What I want to talk about is how to build a nice solid squad on your team, right? Every single person that you're building with, right? This is you. In my opinion, how many people do you think directly can be attached to you technically where you can actually take care of them? 5 to 8 is actually the number, right? So you have 5 to 8 people that are on your team. That's the most perfect number, in my opinion. 5 is much better than 8, and I'll tell you why. Because when you have 5 people directly reporting to you, it's very, very easy to kind of work with them and kind of get shit done. You remember a lot about them. You remember their stories, their dreams, their goals, their ambitions, their weaknesses. You can actually give them the time that you need to help them out. So your question might be, well, Michael, how do I build a team of 50 people or 30 people or 20 people? Well, you don't do it with 5 people attached to you, right? You do it with leaders that have 5 to 8 people on their team. Right? The best way to build a team is to have leaders on your team. So the mindset is very simple. You want to simplify, you want to unify, and then you want to multiply. So the first thing you want to do, you want to simplify the training. If things are too complicated for the people that you're training, you're not going to be able to build anything. Okay? Because when you make yourself seem like you're the magic, what happens to your team? They get confused. Not everyone is as smart as you, and you don't want smart people, right? You don't need smart people to build a team. Right? You just want good people that go out there, hustle, and do what they need to do and get the results. Right? I'm not looking for the highest IQ guy. I'm looking for the highest EQ guy. And usually the high EQ guys are great leaders. Right? The IQ guys are the ones that are engineering and building. But the EQ guys are the ones that are dealing with people. Does that make sense? So in sales, what are you looking for? Smart guys or EQ guys? EQ. So, and that's why you have to be very, very careful, because a lot of EQ guys either have had issues with their emotions before and they've worked on it, or they're going through their emotional challenges and they're building themselves up, or they have a great background of EQ. Not many people have a great background in EQ, but what I've seen, the best EQ people, in my opinion, have gone through some challenges and struggles in their life with some kind of EQ, right? Usually, like if you think about all the successful people that have created really good relationships with people, they really sucked in the beginning because they figured out what they should do and not do, what they shouldn't do, what they can't do, right? So understand that when you're dealing with 5 to 8 people on your team, right now, how many guys have 5 to 8 people directly reporting to you? No one right now, right? But you should get to that point. So, but if you're not able to get to the 5 to 8, there's a reason why. You're making your job a little bit too hard by not simplifying what you're doing when it comes to teaching, right? So what are some things you can do to simplify the teachings? Process, structure, right? When I first started building a team, I did not have a pitch. Now, some of you guys, how many of you guys think that's crazy to not have a pitch? I was just winging it. When I first started, I was just winging. That's how I met Eric. So I was winging it. I didn't have a pitch. My pitch was just my personality. Now let me ask you a question. How many people could duplicate my personality? That was the challenge at the time. I had to create a process. And one of my mentors said, Michael, you're amazing at sales, but you suck at duplicating yourself. He's like, no one's going to be as good as you, and nobody is going to ever even want to be as good as you, because that's not their goal. But just because you're good at flipping the situation around, that's not going to help you build a team. What you need to do is have a process. And what he said was you have to have SOPs, you have to have training material, you have to have documents where a dumbass can come into the room, look at that document, and without you, go out there and create results. Not with you, but without you. So how many of you guys go out there and have your own personality helping you out? Do you think you're duplicatable? Personality is the worst way to duplicate. And in order to have a great, successful team, you have to have different personalities in here. How many of you guys do not relate with me? Raise your hand. Be honest. 100%. Like, I am not like you're good, right? How many like a little bit relate with me? A little bit. Okay?
You are Ajay.
How many guys relate with me? 100%. Probably one person, not even. You see what I'm saying? Nobody relates to my personality. But if I was training and I was building, guess what? I don't need you to have my personality. I need you to have my what? My thought process, my work ethic maybe. The process is what needs to be doing the heavy lifting for you. So if you want to buy back your time, especially when you're training people, you don't want to be the guy that you're dependent on for every single thing that happens, right? How many of you guys are dependent on how to sign a contract with a good lead? Right? You're not. You know how to do it. Can you imagine every time you have to do it, you have to call me or Eric? You know how crazy that would be? Can you imagine 5, 6, 7, 8 people that are reporting to you calling you how to sign docs? You always want to make the process do all the heavy lifting for you. And what ends up happening when you have the process doing the heavy lifting for you, it simplifies. What does that do for you? Gives you back what? More time to go focus on more people. Your time should be focused on building people up, not teaching them the basics. And this is how I learn, this is how I differentiate if I talk to someone about something or not. If the process cannot teach them that, then guess what? I will talk to them about that. So for example, let's say you're going through a tough situation with a customer. Right, like yesterday's situation with a customer, right? That is a specific situation that you probably couldn't handle, and there's no process to that. True or not true? True. So guess what we did? I showed up and I showed them how to get it done. Now, am I going to create a process for that? Probably not, because the chances of that happening are what? Very slim to none, and to create a whole process for something that may not happen again is not really worth it, right? But he was able to see how I did it, so if there's ever a situation, I have another guy that can do what I know how to do. It's amazing, because once you have, like for example, when you have someone say, oh, I keep getting this objection, have you checked the drive? Have you looked at those questions before? Have you sat down and studied that document? That document has everything for you. And if you guys are lucky, we have a document, but some people don't have documents. Some people in other companies, they don't have any training systems. They have a couple of fucking pages of a manual, who we are as a company, some basic shit, but they don't have anything that gives them concrete data on how to handle certain situations, right? So process is important. Structure is another one. If you were working with me, how many guys think that you would have to wonder if I'm working that day or not working that day? How many guys think that you would be like, no, Michael's working, like he's like that, right? He's very consistent, he's very what? Predictable. And if you don't have a structure for yourself, what's the opposite of predictability? Chaos, bro. When you have chaos, what happens is a lot of distractions, right? So imagine going to a club, having music blasting, having motherfuckers walking back and forth, right? And you're trying to pitch someone solar in there. Is that gonna work? Very difficult, right? You need to have the right environment. You need to have the right structure in place, right? You need to have integrity in that situation so you can actually do exactly what you need to do. So chaos is not the answer. I'll give you guys an example with chaos. If you're figuring out your territory, the day of the territory, that creates what? Chaos or predictability for your team? Chaos. If your team is bouncing around from turf to turf or complaining about area to area, is that chaos or that predictability? Chaos. What does that do for your team? It f***s them up, they can't get the right results, right? Predictability is knowing exactly where you're going to work this whole week, this whole month, knowing exactly what needs to get done, and you know exactly what the game plan is. Can you imagine Navy SEALs just saying, you know what, we're going to do this today? Can you imagine that? No, they have predictability on, they know exactly on what step they're going to turn into that door. They have mock situations where they build out, right or wrong, they build mock situations of the house, the building, the infrastructure, so that when they go and train and they go to the real situation live, they can do exactly what needs to get done without thinking. So if you want your team to have great results, they need to have predictability. The question is, are you predictable? Or does Monday seem like a good day to work, and then Tuesday you don't want to self-gen, and then Wednesday you're like half a presentation in, half a presentation out? Or are you consistently creating the right results? There's two ors in simplifying this. There's two ors, right? One or is what? One or is prospecting, and the other or is what? Presenting. Those are the only two ors that you have here, right or wrong, to create results. So if you're just doing presenting, that's fine. That's fine, but you have a lot of other hours that are what? Available to do what? Prospecting. Most people, this is what most people do. This is why they don't hit high levels of success. They like to skip the prospecting, or they like to have shortcuts. And what, you know what the real shortcut is to prospecting? Prospecting. No matter how you want to go about it, the shortest way to get results and get a massive amount of presentation, massive amount of closing is not waiting or depending on someone to give you what? Presentations. The most successful people on the planet have this skill called prospecting. When you hear billionaires, like a lot of billionaires did what in their life? Door knocking. They didn't have someone set appointments for them. I can tell that right now. What they had was someone that they knew how to go out there and prospect. Get a non-interested individual, become somehow interested, and then end up closing them. Mark Cuban knocked on doors, right? A lot of billionaires knocked on doors because that is what creates that grit, and they were prospecting. Right? This is what, because learning how to deal with so many personalities, there's 16 types of personalities out there. Can you deal with all of them? You may not like them. I can deal with an introverted person, become meek and quiet in that specific moment, right? I know how to become a chameleon. That's what you need to learn how to do, be a chameleon. Same thing goes when you're building a team. You gotta learn how to be a chameleon to deal with different people. There's an action, there's a process, and then there's a result. Most people, this is what they want to do. They want to fall in love with the action in order to create that action. Before that action is what? What do they usually have before that action? A feeling. They have to feel good, and then they create an action, then there's a process, and then there's a result. But if you can get good at not giving a about this feeling, not letting the emotion dictate what the action will be, not care about what the action will make you feel like doing or not feel like doing, and just create the action and enjoy, get really hung up on this. Like, this is the thing you need to be excited about, the process. If you can get excited about this process and enjoy that pain, so to say, at that moment, you will have more results than anyone in the marketplace. And what is that process when it comes to prospecting? It's the grit. 90% of the people run away from that. And guess what happens? You're giving away the biggest fruit that is on the table. There will be a point in your life, in your business career, where the prospecting is not going to be your main focus. Your main focus is to generate and train other people how to prospect. Not many people can make it through a Navy SEAL program. It's a difficult process. So just imagine the 1% of the 1%. How do some people make it through a Navy SEAL program and some people don't? Is it size? No, the small motherfuckers in Navy SEALs a lot of times. Is it strength? No. There's some strong motherfuckers that go in there, don't make it. Is it mental toughness? There's some mentally tough people out there. But it's not just mental toughness, because there's a lot of mentally tough people that become weak in certain moments of the pain. What is it that keeps them? They try to do all these exams and studies and tests. They figured out the main thing is that they have something inside of them that is deep inside. You cannot explain. They don't even know they don't know who's going to be a great Navy SEAL or who's not. There's something inside of them that they have inside of them that says, I am not giving the up. I'm going to get it done. And I don't give a if I have to do it or I'm going to die. And when you have a do or a die mentality, that's when you create the results that you need to create. Not fight or flight, fight or die. Big difference. See, if you fight and during a fight you have a chance, I'm going to dip because these motherfuckers bash me in the head, or I'm going to fight, right? But when there's a fight or I'm going to die, what do? What do you end up doing? You might as well fight, because I'm going to die fighting. Because I don't want to be remembered as a guy that died just because he died, right? So that's the mentality. It's a do or die mentality. And they realize that the people that have the strongest why, the strongest reason to be in the Navy SEALs are the ones that made it. It wasn't the toughest, the smartest, the short. It wasn't that. It had nothing to do with that. It's the ones that wanted it better than they wanted anything in their life. You got to figure out what your deep desire is to enjoy that process and not give up. Most people can't be consistent enough because they're not willing to do the simple shit. The simple shit is what? Prospect. Let me ask you guys a question. If you go out there and you prospect and you present, does that simplify the process for the game? Does that show them how to get it done? Right? It's very simple. It's not complicated. That leads you into what? Unification. When you think of unity, what does that mean? I call it a brotherhood. I call it a clique. I call it a gang. People coming together with a common cause and a common vision, attacking towards something, chasing something bigger than what? Than themselves. Most people will not go prospect for themselves, but they'll go prospect for someone else. Most people will not go to the gym unless someone else goes there with them because that holds them accountable. They want to show they can actually get it done. That's why a lot of people have a swim buddy or a buddy they go to the gym with or someone they want to run with. Why? Because you want to have that partner to hold you accountable, right? So when you think of unity, what are two foundations that help build a fucking unified team so that there's no breakage in that process? So there's no, trust, okay. Which is if you boil down trust, it's all about what? Loyalty. When you have loyalty, there's a lot of what? Trust. There's a lot of love. There's a lot of connection. There's a lot of deep bonds inside of that team, right? How many of you guys have seen marriages or relationships where there's no unity? There's no unity because there's no loyalty, there's no trust, there's no honesty, there's no transparency, right? There's no connection. And the last thing that you need, right, is edification. To build one up. Right? And how do you build one up? How do you build other people around you? Spending time with them, talking to them, adding value to them, building their belief up. I believe in you. I'm proud of you. How many of you guys got a message from me one time? I believe in you. Or I'm proud of you. Or thank you. I need you, right? Those are important phrases. So unity equals loyalty and edification. Once you have unity, right, you can unify the team. There's a lot of simplicity in the team, a lot of day-to-day shit that's getting done. The prospecting, the producing, the presenting, You have the simplification, you have the unification, and now what do? Multiply. How easy is it to have a team of 5 to 8 people, another 5 to 8 people, and another 5 to 8 people by duplicating that process? Much easier, and that's how we build a team of 150 guys. That's the formula. I didn't have 150 guys looking at me as, oh, I'm the almighty leader. It wasn't like that. Every leader had their own pocket of people. Some had 10 or 15, some had 4 or 5. It all depended on the individual's capacity. It all depended on the leadership. But at the end of the day, ultimately, you had pockets of squads, so to say, and all those squads represented something bigger and greater, and that's how we were able to accomplish our goals. We had a goal. Our team's goal was to hit 100 sales a week. That was our battle cry at that time. Like, it was like, we're going to do it, and everyone thought I was smoking some because at that time we were doing like 20 sales a week. And it was 5 times higher than what we were doing at that moment. And a lot of people didn't believe. They kind of had a little bit of doubt, a little bit of fear, a little bit of worry, a little bit of disbelief. But guess what I was saying every day? We're going to get 100 sales a day, 100 sales a week. It took us a couple of months to hit that mark. And I remember one time we hit 80 sales in a week. And one of my guys, his name was Noy, he's like, oh my God, we're almost at that 100. I was like, yeah, we're going to get to that 100, bro. I told you we're going to get to that 100. We're going to get there soon. 4 months later, we got 100 fucking 1 sales that one week. We threw a big excitement. He wasn't there at that time. We threw a party. We were so excited because we were like, that dream that we had, we accomplished it. But guess what we did when we hit that 100? The second we hit that, oh, I raised that motherfucker 200. My team got mad at me that morning. I never forget. They got so mad. Like, why we just hit the goal? I'm like, bro, you cannot get excited by hitting a goal. You gotta worry about the next goal, because the second we get excited about the goal, we get complacent. We get tired. We get, oh, we got it. We made it. And you can't have that in business, because if you think you made it, oh, the competition will come and slap you in the right? And then eventually what happened? We hit 200. I changed the goal to 300. And I was like, that. These 100 increments. Let's do 500 sales in a week. Let's go get 500, bro. Let's do it. And we hit 526 sales as the highest sales we ever did in a week. This was August of 2019. We were able to multiply because we had the simplicity. I had a big trouble. My first year, it wasn't growing. I was like, why is it not growing? My mentor's like, bro, where's your processes, bro? He's like, you're out there hustling. You're the only one that can do what needs to get done. You got a couple of guys that know how to do it, but nobody's able to duplicate. I said, process. So we spent hours with him. I literally spent hours with him, building out the training, building out the modules, building out all those things, right? We had a structure. We became predictable. We were going out there. I was presenting. I was prospecting. I was in the front. This was the company. This was the team. This was me. I was right here. I didn't expect my team to do shit that I didn't do at that time. Because at that time, there was no one else that was going to create those results. There was no one. It was either me or nobody, right? So I was like, let's do it. Let's create those results. And that's what kind of helped direct the vision of where we were going. So if you love this kind of content, do me a solid. Subscribe to the channel, like this video, share with a friend, and we'll see you guys in the next video.